In Egypt, at least 7 people have been killed in 2 separate terror attacks. 2 female tourists were killed after a man swam to a beach at a Red Sea resort in Hurghada. 4 other tourists were wounded in the incident. And earlier, in a separate attack, 5 policemen were killed after gunmen ambushed their patrol car south of Cairo. Well, for the latest on this, for more on this, we can speak to Peter Williams, who's a lecturer at Liverpool John Moores University. He's joining us now live. Peter Williams, good to speak to you. So just how unstable do you think the security situation is currently in Egypt?
Well, these latest attacks today obviously are very worrying, but it does appear to be part of a pattern that is emerging in relation to Egypt, and tourist sites are a particular target of these terrorist groups which are linked to ISIS and declared their allegiance to them in 2014. And in relation to the security situation which you're specifically referring to, I note that the British Foreign Office is still advising travellers and tourists not to visit the Sinai area of Egypt, indicative of the fact that they don't feel that it is safe for tourists, and also the fact that the UK has not yet restored the link in relation to flights to Sharm el-Sheikh. Now, all these events and this the advice of the Foreign Office is indicative of the fact that there's clearly an issue in relation to Egypt. It's one which it would appear that the Egyptian security forces, despite their best efforts, are not really getting to grips with. Egypt is clearly worrying, but it would also draw the attention of viewers to TRT to what is happening in areas of northern Syria, in areas that, of course, the so-called caliphate, in which ISIS are being reduced and downgraded clearly. And I think these attacks are symbolic of the fact that they are still sending a message that this is a terrorist group which is still capable of inflicting these horrific attacks.
Absolutely. And so as they're downgraded in Syria, they perhaps move their attacks to other places, like Egypt, as we've seen today. Now, you mentioned the Egyptian security agencies. Just why do you think they're seemingly incapable of being able to stop these attacks? If you remember, we had those huge bombings of Coptic Christian churches just a few months ago.
Well, I would suggest that I've always made the point on TRT over the months that I've appeared on here, and any terrorist group, it doesn't matter where in the world they are, will always be downgraded and defeated by intelligence, and it is intelligence that is in fact that is going to defeat ISIS and this particular wave of terrorism. On that particular point, I would draw viewers' attention to an interview yesterday that the Director General of Europol, Rob Wainwright, did with the Washington Post, specifically in relation to intelligence. And he made the point that as ISIS is being downgraded, it's estimated that there are about 2,500 ISIS fighters who are in fact EU citizens at various stages of returning, if you like, to their countries of origin. So he, as in relation to Europol, is acutely aware of the importance of intelligence in relation to that. I would, from what I've seen in relation to Egypt, I would suggest that it is Egypt's efforts in relation to terrorism that probably an intelligence that they need to concentrate on in order to defeat what is clearly happening in various places in their country. And what I would also add to that is, if you look at these specific targets, which makes it very difficult for the security services anywhere, they are very diverse tourist areas. The Coptic Christians, attacks on the security forces, attacks on border areas. It makes it very difficult for the security services to counter that, to place anti-terrorism measures in place unless you have credible intelligence.
Absolutely. OK, Peter Williams from Liverpool John Moores University, thanks for joining us.